right, good morning. I thought I was going to have a little helper today. So good to see everyone. It's good to see that the time change does not affect your desire to come. You're willing to, like Thomas said, give up an hour of sleep and come be with your church family. It's really good. Good to see you. Good to see you. If you're new here, we're really excited that you are here. Want to get to know you. And we are in part 4 of our My Jesus Story sermon series. And today we're going to be in John chapter 5. If you want to open to that, it's going to be a longer passage. So I would like for you to follow along and look and think about it. But, you know, let's just pray. Let's just start with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for stepping into this world and revealing yourself to us through your Son, Jesus Christ. And I pray for every single one of us that our Jesus story is pleasing to you, that it's going to reflect your Son and his heart and his desire, and that you're going to be transforming us and changing us into the likeness and the image of your Son. Open our hearts to your word. Help us to really listen and hear what you want us to hear. And we pray all those things in Jesus' name. Amen. I want to start with a question. Who taught you to drive? And was it a good experience or not? And if I was to guess, some of you, you had a person that's close to you that was teaching you, and I would also not suggest, but guess that it might have not been the best experience that you had. That maybe you had some tension in your relationships because of that. Most of the time, it's a parent and a child. I was teaching Oksana how to drive. Okay, it's a long story, and yes, I can't share everything. You know, I have to say that nobody warned me that teaching your spouse can put a lot of stress and tension in your relationships. I guess I missed that part of the marriage counseling and stuff. So, you know, our driving lessons, sessions, they were full of stress and frustrations. And I realized that we had completely different expectations and ideas about what was supposed to be happening as she was learning to drive. Because she was saying, stop telling me everything that I'm not doing right. I want you to encourage me. I need your support. I can't learn if you keep saying what I'm doing wrong. I'm like, I thought my task was to tell you things that will help you to be a better driver. And possibly those things will save your life. And watch out! I have to admit, it was not easy to get from the driver's seat into the passenger seat and let somebody else make decisions that I would not always agree with, make choices and things that I just would do things differently, you know. And I shared with you, as Bud often says, can you make a sermon out of this? And yes, this time I can make a sermon out of this. And I realize that I'm going to get in trouble for sharing this. Because Oksana may not approve of what I'm sharing, and you guys are not going to tell her, right? Well, who am I fooling, right? Okay. But if you do, you need to know that you are to blame for all the problems that are going to be in our marriage, all right? So, letting somebody else drive is one of the hardest decisions in life. And we're not talking about literal driving. Just letting somebody else make decisions and choices and tell you things is one of the hardest things in life. And it's especially true of the areas of our life where, maybe we have spent a long time there. We may have done all kinds of research. We lived through those things. We've read up all the information available on the topic or on that area. But there's always, whatever you're going through, whatever this area can be, there's always going to be somebody who is willing and always ready to give you advice of how to do things or what else you could try. And because of that, because there's always people that, say, well, maybe you should, or have you ever thought about, sometimes it makes you even hesitant about sharing things and talking about things because there's going to be, you're not ready for that barrage of advice and recommendations and questions, and it's just, you're like, people, I've lived through this. I've dealt with this. I've tried everything I could. It's not that I haven't thought about things. And we know that people mean well. We know that people mean well. It just makes it harder to talk about things and share things. Because people, even though they mean well, sometimes they're trying to tell you things, they have no idea what you've been going through. And so today's passage, the passage we're going to look at today, kind of reminds me of that situation, that type of situation. So let's just get into John chapter 5, and we're going to read verses 1 through 13. Afterwards, Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holy days. Inside the city, near the sheep gate, was the pool of Bethesda, with 5 covered porches. Crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, lay on the porches. One of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. When Jesus saw him and knew he had been ill for a long time, he asked him, "Would you like to get well?" "I can't, sir," the sick man said, "for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone else always gets there ahead of me." Jesus told him, "Stand up, pick up your mat, and walk." Instantly, the man was healed. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began walking. But this miracle happened on the Sabbath, so the Jewish leaders objected. They said to the man who was cured, "You can't work on the Sabbath. The law does not allow you to carry that sleeping mat." But he replied, "The man who healed me told me, 'Pick up your mat and walk.'" "Who said such a thing as that?" they demanded. The man didn't know, for Jesus had disappeared into the crowd. Okay, so John is telling us the story. So John telling us the story, he's putting us into the audience. Okay, the story is unfolding. We're in the audience kind of watching and reading and learning about this. What I would like for us to do is to get on the stage and kind of try to see this situation unfold from the perspective of this man, the paralyzed man. 38 years of being paralyzed. It's a long, long time of being dependent on other people in the most basic things. You always need somebody's help. You're always asking for help. You're always relying on some other person. You tried every medicine that there is. You've seen all the doctors that there are. You've talked to them, you asked them questions. You've talked to the best of them, trying to solve your problem and get healed. And nothing works. You try it for years and nothing helps. But then you hear that there's a pool, and then sometimes the water in that pool starts to bubble up. And then you hear the rumor that the first person that gets in the water after it starts bubbling up gets healed. At this point, after all those years of trying to get healed and get help and nothing works, you're willing to try pretty much anything. It doesn't really matter if it's true or not. You're just like, I'm going to try that. I'm ready to give anything a try. So that was a typical day for him. Lots of familiar faces. The text, John tells us there were crowds of people. A lot of people needing help, wanting to get healed. So he's looking, he's recognizing a lot of those faces. They're there every day. Some knew. Some people like him at a certain point in time, they learned about it, they come, they wait for the moment. He's looking at all those people, and he sees a crowd of people, and all of them are hoping to get well. But he also sees the people around him that are his competitors. He can't ask them for help. I mean, their goal is to be the first in the water when the water starts to bubble up. Everybody is in there for themselves. So he's there, but he knows that he cannot ask anybody to help him. Do you want to get well? Here's the question. He probably looks at a person, looks in the direction where the sound was coming from. That's the question that nobody has asked him for a long time. So he looks at the person and he sees a man. He looks kind of different from the rest of the crowd over there. He doesn't seem to have problems, health issues. In fact, he looks pretty healthy. Finally, I have hope. This is the chance of my life. Finally, it's not the competitors only that I see around me who will never help me. Finally, somebody showed up and is asking me if I need help. Someone who can help me get to the water first when it starts bubbling up. So he responds, I can't. There's nobody to help me get to the water when it starts stirring up. Somebody always beats me. So in other words, he's telling, you got to help me beat everybody to the water and be the first one there. Then Jesus says something outrageous and extremely insensitive. He tells them, get up, pick up your mat, and go. You know, we're looking at this from the audience. We're reading. We have the advantage of knowing what's going to happen. We know how the story is going to end. But if you were there and you saw Jesus talking to the person who was paralyzed, saying something like, get up, get your mat, and start walking, what would you think? Who does that? Who says such a thing? It's like telling somebody who's blind, like, oh, just open your eyes and see. Really? Really? You don't think I've tried that? I've tried. I tried getting up. You don't think anybody told me that before? I tried getting up. I tried trying getting up. I tried praying. I tried seeing the doctors. I tried everything you can, literally anything and everything that you can think of. Trust me, in 38 years, I've tried everything. I tried all of those things. So maybe if you can help me get to the water and I get healed, maybe then I can do what you're telling me to do. Maybe after you help me get to the water first and I get healed, maybe then I can get up, get my mat, and go and walk. And then, by the way, if you're trying to be funny, I want to tell you it's not funny. Because I'm really hurting. I'm really suffering. This is not the life that I want to live. So what I want us to see is that this is a crucial moment. This tension is building up. It's built up. Because we see a paralyzed man who has been in a bad situation for a long, long time. And Jesus, who is making what seems to be a very insensitive and kind of outrageous comment. The paralyzed man sees Jesus as someone who can help him by doing it the way he thinks he needs to get help. He is thinking, yes, you're asking me if I want to get well, and I take it that you want to help me get to the water. So yes, if that's what you mean, if you're offering help, then yes, I want to do that. This is the help. This is the solution that I see. This is the view of the paralyzed man. In his mind, this is what he sees. And Jesus sees a man and wants to help him by doing it his way. Jesus is not there to help him get to the water. Jesus is there to solve the problem that he hasn't been able to solve in years. This is a well-known story. I'm sure you have read it or heard it preached multiple times. Have you ever wondered why this person kept coming back? Or he relied on somebody, asked somebody to bring him back there? Like he's there, he keeps coming back. I understand he tried everything, but he keeps doing the same thing. He comes back to a place where there's really no hope. Even if it was true, even if the first person getting to the water was getting healed, which is probably just a rumor. But even if it was true, there is no hope, there is no chance in the world for you to beat the crowds of people who probably are more mobile than you are. Why do you keep coming back? I mean, how are you planning? What's your plan? What's your idea about beating everybody else and be the first at the water? You see, I think it's the story about us. We do the same thing a lot of the times. We try to solve the problems that we have the same way that never works. We've tried and tried and tried, and we know that it doesn't work. It's just different things that we know to do. It's different things that, somebody else may have suggested, but we tried it, and it doesn't work. But we keep repeating it. We keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And after a while, we just stop asking ourselves why we're doing this, because we've done it for so long. And it's the only thing that I know. It's the only thing that I'm familiar with. And sometimes we're not even the first generation to do those things. We've seen our parents do this. We've seen our parents deal with conflict this way. Now I'm dealing with conflict this way. I've seen what happened to my parents' relationship, but I still do the same thing. This is how I resolve conflict. I know it doesn't work, but I'm not even asking myself this question. And it's funny, what doesn't make sense from a distance somehow makes sense when we're in the middle of what's going on. I'm sure you've had situations when you ask somebody like, why do you keep doing this? I'm like, I don't know. Well, it doesn't work. Like, I kind of know, but I don't know what else to do. I think we're often stuck in our paradigms thinking that we know how to fix our problems or issues, even though it doesn't work. But then Jesus comes into my life with a paradigm shift. And he's asking, do you want to get well? And we treat this question the same way that we treated the ideas and suggestions of some people who are more of a nuisance. We get irritated. We're like, really? That? Jesus, I tried everything. I tried everything that I know. And maybe if you give me more money, or better health, or a nicer house, or a bank account with more zeros after the numbers that I have on my bank account, or a better husband, or a better parent, or a better child, or a better job, or education, then I can get well. We have an idea how God can solve our problem. But Jesus is not asking the question, do you want me to assist you with what you've been doing forever and what never worked or fixed anything? That's not his question. He's not walking in as like, do you need assistance? Do you want me to help you do the same thing that you've been doing by yourself on your own? He's asking, do you want to get well? Not based on what you're capable of or other people are capable of, but based on my power and what I'm capable of. This is his question. Do you want to get well based on what I am capable of doing? Why is this important and why does it matter to us? There's a truth, I believe there's a truth that we need to discover or kind of refresh and get back to, that Paul is talking about in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20, where he says that God is able to do immeasurably more than all we can ask or imagine according to his power that is at work within us. To do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. So the truth is, he can do immeasurably more. Will I let him drive? Will I put him in the driver's seat? Will I get in the passenger seat and let him drive? Or will I keep driving in my old cul-de-sac and just get frustrated and tired and exhausted all the time, in circles, trying the same thing over and over and over and over again, things that I'm capable of, instead of relying on his power and his way of doing things? So how can I apply this in my situation, in my life? Well, the application is very simple. Get in the passenger seat and let Jesus drive. I need to get in the passenger seat and let Jesus drive. Why? Because he is able to do immeasurably more than I can ask or imagine if I let him drive. So far, we looked at two characters in the story, Jesus and the paralyzed man. There's another group of people. We can call it a character. And that's, and we can end up in their shoes just as easily as with a paralyzed person. That's the spiritual police, the Jewish leaders that are there. They see a man on the Sabbath carrying a mat, and they say, "What are you doing? What do you think you're doing? Why are you working on Saturday, on the Sabbath?" And he says, "Well, the guy who healed me told me to do that." Notice their response. They totally miss the heal part. They ignore it. They're like, who told you that? Who dared to tell you that? How? We want to know the name of the person who told you to carry something on Sabbath. Forget the healing part. Why is this important? I think the critical mindset can stop us from seeing a miracle that is happening right in front of our face. If we have this critical mindset, just kind of looking for faults in people around us, it can stop us from seeing wonders and miracles that God is doing, the things that God is at work. Pretty much everybody here drives. I have a question for you. When do people, not you, when do people tend to be more critical? When they drive or when they're in the passenger seat? Critical of other drivers. When you're driving, right? When you're in the passenger seat, I know some of you struggle with just like you're in the passenger seat, but in your mind you're still driving. So you're just like, you're always talking and correcting the person who's driving. But if you trust the person, the driver, what are you doing? You're just looking around. You start noticing things that you never notice when you drive. The driver kind of has to focus on other drivers. And that's always when what are you doing? What in the world are you thinking about? When we're a passenger, we just tend to pay more attention to beautiful things, interesting things that are around us. So let Jesus drive. Why? Because he can do immeasurably more when you let him drive. And you won't be as critical of others, but you'll just have time to enjoy God's wonders around you. When you're in the driver's seat, meaning you got it all figured out, you know all the ins and whens and hows and wheres, you will miss the miracles around you. Because you're going to be busy criticizing people, other drivers around yourself. Let Jesus drive and enjoy the ride. Why? Because he can do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine. I mean, we know, we've tried long enough. And we know that our ways do not work. So if we stay in the driver's seat, we'll just keep running into the wall all the time. We'll just keep doing it. We've done it before. If we keep driving, we'll just keep running into the wall. We'll end up being more and more critical of other drivers around us. So why don't I just let Jesus drive, knowing that he can do immeasurably more than I can ask or imagine? Where can I let Jesus drive in my life? All kinds of ways, all kinds of areas. Your salvation, your relationship. Maybe you've just been killing yourself trying to be perfect. But God says you can never be perfect enough to be saved. So why don't you just rely on him and what he has done and accept his forgiveness through faith in Jesus Christ? Maybe it's your relationships, where you're trying to kind of navigate and do things and you fail over and over and over. Jesus is saying, do you want to get well? Do you really want your relationships to get well? And he's not meaning continue doing the things that you've done and I'll just bless you and help you. He's saying, do things my way. Rely on me and my power, on my word. Stop killing yourself. Let me drive. Do you want to get well in raising your children? Do you want to get well in sharing good news with people, or managing money, or using my gifts? The best idea in any of those areas of our lives where we struggle, where we continue doing the things that never work, but we just keep on doing them over and over again, and then frustrated at the end of the day, we're like, God, please bless me. Make this work. He's saying, please, do you want to get well? I can do immeasurably more than you can ever ask or imagine. Do you want to get well? That's the question that we have to really answer and be sincere. Do I want to get well? I can only get well through His power that is at work within me.